All right, we are live. Welcome to a very special episode of The Left Wing. I am John Cooper, and as you can tell, TJ is not here right now. No, he did not pull a Michael Jackson. This is regular friend of the show, Nathan Reo. Reo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's always an honor to be on here. Thanks for letting
Nathan,
me
you
on.
got to stop. You got to stop with this honor stuff. It is not an honor to be on here. We are degenerates who are far too online, and if we knew better for ourselves, we wouldn't be doing this either.
That's why it's an honor. I love degenerates.
It's an honor among degenerates. I actually very much like that. All right. So, yes, as I'm sure if you guys watched our show last Thursday, you are aware that TJ would not be here. He is on one of his monthly work trips. So it is me and Rio today. And I was originally planning, Rio, on doing a sort of solo show here and just kind of letting the audience ask questions. And then I saw your TikTok related to how your father didn't take communicating with you over the Charlie Kirk assassination all too well. And I really feel like that might strike a chord with a lot of people, whether it be a parent or an uncle or a brother or a sister or an in-law or a longtime friend or a coworker or a boss. Everyone, I imagine, has someone in their lives who they are close to in some way, shape, or form who is a MAGA person. Whether that just mean, hey, they voted for Trump, they're not seeing what we're seeing, or they are hardcore indoctrinated in the cult. They believe everything he says without a grain of incredulity and will yell and scream and try and bash their point of view across to their loved ones in a way that is not very pleasant to deal with. So I want to talk to you about it. And I'm glad when I reached out that you would be willing to talk on a live stream. I know that that's a different thing than talking on a pre-recorded TikTok, but kind of just going to open the floor. If you could give our audience a little bit of a briefing on, what transpired, what your relationship with your father has been like. Longtime viewers of the show, I'm sure, have heard how you left the Mormon church, correct?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And so for the people who maybe aren't longtime viewers or missed those episodes that you've been on, how about you just kind of tell us about, how things have been recently from your point of view?
I'm going to tell you this. I think that the Charlie Kirk thing was a mini 9/11. I really do. I believe that we've seen lots of bloodshed in Gaza, and we're all traumatized from the gore. We've seen a lot of school shootings. We've seen riots. We've seen George Floyd. We've seen the brutality of police brutality. We have been drenched in gun violence. And there's still a part of us that hasn't been traumatized. It's that deep, scared 9/11 territory. And the assassination of Charlie Kirk managed to take us all the way down back to the 9/11 level of fear. And I really think that it was a 9/11 like cultural event. It was like a Mount St. Helens explosion. Honestly, you know what? In a weird way, it is analogous a little bit to the Martin Luther King assassination. Not to say that Charlie Kirk is anything like Martin Luther King. Literally, he stood against Martin Luther King quite vociferously. But in the sense, or the JFK assassination, in the sense that it shocked our senses so entirely. And the problem was we were already so fucking wound up into partisan war. I mean, God, it's not even like infighting. It's like full. It was culture war. Now it's really war. It's just intense, man. And the Charlie Kirk thing, my dad, dude, when he was on the phone with me, he's like, tell me what you think about Charlie Kirk. Of course, at the beginning of the conversation, he's pretending that he's going to be like, let's just hash this out. Let's talk about this. What do you think? What do you think? What are your opinions? Let's hear it, And I thought at the beginning, I was like, okay, I'll do this. I'll do this with him and I'll talk to him. I thought it was going to be high tension, but that we would hear each other out. We'd debate it. We'd kind of get a little bit heated, maybe. I mean, it happens. We have heated conversations. He's a big Trumper. He lives in Idaho Falls. He's a Mormon. I love him. He's a retired mailman. He's a disgruntled postal worker. But, you know, so I was like, okay, I'll go there. But I kind of noticed quickly the conversation was not normal. It was not normal bash. Okay, well, what do you think about that? It wasn't normal debating with, or sparring, I guess, because we spar. He calls me to spar, right? He's like, have you seen this? Have you ever heard of Tucker Carlson? And I was like, oh my God, Dad. Anyway, so this was different though, man. He was like growling, he was drooling, he was crying. Are you gonna shoot me? He's like, are you gonna get a gun and shoot me? I'm like, Dad, I've never owned a gun. The science says that gun control works. The research says, you know that I'm a gun control guy. You know that I'm a pacifist type guy. But he's feral, dude. And you know, what's the word that people are using right now? You've heard it, I'm sure, on TikTok, stochastic terrorism. And dude, you want to talk about, I'm going to pretend that the word is stochastic, but I don't know what the actual word is. I'm forgetting it. So
no, stochastic is the word. I'm pretty darn sure. It's a word that I've only ever read. I don't hear it out loud, so maybe it's not pronounced that way, but I'm pretty damn sure it's stochastic terrorism.
For the sake of this show, we're just going to pretend that stochastic is the correct pronunciation of that word.
Now you're making me question myself.
Yeah, you got to Google it. But here's the thing, brother. You want to talk about stochastic terrorism? Sean fucking Hannity. Dude, you want to talk about stochastic terrorism? Conan O'Brien, or not Conan O'Brien. Who's the guy that said, we'll play it out. We'll do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
That's Bill O'Reilly. Yeah.
Bill O'Reilly. You want to talk about stochastic terrorism? Those guys that are every single day on corporate media, on the news shows saying, these disgusting leftists and their cults, it's all their climate change is just a religion, and they're anti-family, and they hate us, and they hate our freedoms, and they're disgusting. They want nothing more than to destroy the family and to steal your property and to steal your jobs. That's stochastic terrorism. And you know, that's like every single day in conservative media, and not in corporate media. It's not even corporate media. It's like Christian conservative culture, right? Like corporate media is like CNN, you know, I mean, Fox is obviously corporate media too, but Fox uses stochastic terrorism as their main form of dialogue. Like stochastic terrorism in conservative Christianity is the norm. Like normal language is stochastic terrorism. And it's funny because they want to pretend that it's on the liberal side or the left-leaning side or the progressive side or all the way to a leftist side. They want to pretend that us saying, hey, this is fascism. They want to pretend that that's stochastic, but they've been calling us fascists forever. I know they've been calling us communists and, you know, Satanists and everything forever. That, you know, they just can't take any criticism back. The older I get, I realize conservative religious folks cannot take what they dish out at all. They can't do it. So yeah, anyway, I'm sorry I'm going everywhere, but
no, you touched on a lot of good points there, Reo, and I want to kind of break them down one by one here. And I guess we'll start as wide as we can go, and then kind of whittle it down onto the personal level for what we can do. Right. First, just wanted to point out that we do have another Mormon family member in the audience, so maybe you guys can just give each other a little comfort in knowing that you're not the only ones going through the type of shit that you're going through. And that's actually something we talk a lot about on this show. First of all, bringing content creators and how good that is to talk to other people who do what we do, but also there are a ton of people, guests on this show like yourself, that have left very, very hardcore indoctrinated churches. I mean, I left the Catholic Church, and that's its own thing. But like we're talking, you know, yourself the Mormon Church, TJ with his evangelicalism, a kind of a step up from even what I've experienced growing up. So it's a thing that a lot of people who have been guests on the show, and I imagine a lot of our audiences have had to deal with. But let's zoom out here and talk about the stochastic terrorism thing, because you are incredibly right. Although I would argue that stochastic terrorism is a term that I don't use because it doesn't work for the reasons that you kind of highlighted there. People don't really understand what stochastic terrorism is. And so it becomes this word that people can throw around, just like communists and fascists. Hell, we had Kamala Harris today on The View calling, or maybe it was yesterday, calling Donald Trump a communist dictator. And it's like, bro, Kamala, your father was an economics professor who taught classes on Karl Marx. You know that Donald Trump isn't a communist, but he knows that Americans don't know what the actual definition of these words are. So they get tossed around and used as insults, as, you know, emotive, persuasive devices. But with stochastic terrorism, like, I can call what Fox News does stochastic terrorism, and they'll call me calling them stochastic terrorism, and we'll just be talking right over people the entire time, and it won't really matter. But what you are talking about, I think, speaks to why a lot of MAGA is feeling the way they feel right now, because they live in a different universe, and we talk about this. We make fun of this on the left, right? We talk about, you know, their tariff thing. Like, yeah, no, guys, importers pay tariffs. Can we just fucking agree on these basic facts? But if we can't agree on that basic fact, which we apparently can't, you have to kind of look at it from the perspective of being in that cult. And when you are, and when someone is a prominent member of that community is shot and killed, it does feel personal. And I love your comparison to 9/11. I'm sure there'll be some people with a knee-jerk reaction of like, how dare you make that comparison? But I think it's pretty apt. 9/11 is not the worst mass death event of my lifetime by any stretch of it's not the worst mass death event of the last 2 months.
Was it 2,500 people?
What was that?
Was it 2,500 people?
It was about 3,000. I think it was like 2,900. It was just under 3,000 people.
Okay.
Which, again, a tragedy. It was awful. Like, that's not like minced words here. But compared to all of the tragedies that have ever happened, why are we more impacted by this one? And it's because it hit so close to home in a way that we aren't really used to here in the United States. And it hit me too. Like, I hand up when Charlie Kirk was shot. And I did a lot of thinking of comparing it to when the Luigi Mangione killing happened, when he killed that healthcare CEO whose name I don't even remember at this moment. And I felt the Charlie Kirk killing way more. Like, it maybe it's because it's someone that I have interacted with. Maybe it's because, oh shit, Charlie kind of does what I do. Is my ass on the frying pan right now? Like, and again, not yet, hopefully. But like, it is that level of personal relation that turns all of our emotions up to 1,000. And when you have been being told by the news channel that you watch every single day for the past 2 decades that the left are scary terrorists who are out to kill you, about to trans your kids, they're importing these rapist, marauding immigrants to come and steal your wives and rape your daughters. Like, this, again, I'm not being hyperbolic. These things Donald Trump has said himself. And so when that is your bubble, it is a scary thing. And we can write these people off and say, oh, well, they're too far gone on a wide scale level. And that might be the case. I don't know how to fix this on a large systemic level, but on a personal level, when you have to deal with these people, either because they're your father and you love them regardless, or they're your boss, or they're someone you just have to interact with every single day, you kind of have to remember that. And my biggest piece of advice, I don't know if this is how you deal with it, Reo, but like, always be hard on systems, soft on people. Don't blame the person for being incredibly uninformed and uneducated. Blame the multitude of systems which have failed them and led them to feel this way, which on a human level is kind of understandable.
Yeah, no, it is. That's a great point. I keep trying to remind myself of that. It is so easy to get super fucking bitter towards these people. For example, I left the Mormon church, which is just one flavor of Christian fundamentalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's many different types of fundamentalism, like TJ came from fundamentalism as well. And I have a really hard time not absolutely hating Mormons. I got, I gotta remember to be really kind of loving and patient with the people, and then I
Mm-hmm.
always say attack the ideas, only attack the ideas, and yeah, I'm struggling. I'm trying to remember that. I'm trying
Mm-hmm.
to.
And it's hard. It's hard. It's genuinely hard because if we how do I put this? I don't actually want to say if we acted like they did, because there's plenty of people on our side of the aisle that do, right? There's plenty of people on the left who are hard as shit on people
Yeah,
and detrimental degree. So I don't actually want to make this a left-right thing. So when I say we, I'm talking about like me and Rio specifically, of our mindsets and what we do when we're confronted with people like this. But what we kind of want to do is put all that to the side. But at the end of the day, we're humans too. Like, it is hard, because specifically talking about religion. Every time I talk with a Catholic, I talk to someone who was raised the same way I was, given the same education I was in the Catholic Church, and most of the time the same public education system, because that's the Catholics I talk to, the people I grew up with, right? And they believe, whether they admit it or not, they believe I'm burning in hell for all eternity. I will never forget, my
yeah.
mom found out I was an atheist when I was a teenager.
Oh shit.
And I saw her crying on the couch. And I was like, "Why are you crying, Mom?" And she was like, "Because I'm going to live in heaven forever without my firstborn son." And like, that hurts.
Yeah.
That sucks. That is, people in the audience who disagree with me, please, like, I hope you can relate to that. Sucks. And that's what talking to anyone who follows that religion is like. Every single one of them believes I will burn in hell for all eternity, and I'm expected to treat that like it's a valid point of view. And I do, because I have to. We have to. We can't move forward with our lives actually genuinely believing that all of these people around us either A, think that we are going to burn in hell for all eternity, or B, aren't actually being genuine about their beliefs when it comes to their faith, and just picking and choosing things in
Yeah.
order to win political points, which I actually
Usually
prefer.
it's that.
I just wish they'd be honest about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Um,
can I want to say something about, while we're real quick, I just want to touch on this. So it is just so that people can we need to get clear on this. Like, the further left you go, the less and less motivated you are to enact some type of partisan violence. Like, the further left you go, the more that you are thinking about how the centralization of ownership is bad, and you shouldn't have primary resources be privatized for profit, for the profit of the ultra wealthy. And you don't see any of the issues as left or right issues. You see them as class issues. I mean, it's the tale is old. Everybody knows, or I hope that everybody knows, the further you go left, the more class conscious you become, in the sense that you see all the struggles that we're going through really as a restriction of our access to primary survival resources. So it's a class, everything is a class conflict. So a leftist has no motivation to be like, fucking Trump supporters. Like, we specifically, a leftist is going to say, the Trump supporters and all of you poor Gen Z living in your car, leftists or whatever, all of you guys are literally on the same side. You're the working class. You're all being exploited. You are economic slaves. you need to not fight, and you need to realize that politics is like puppeteering from the rich. I mean, I'm simplifying it, but I just say that because it's so weird to have people be scared of leftists as if we're violent. It's yeah, it's just fucking stupid. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I will push back slightly on that generalization, because I mean, there are segments of the left that are inherently violent. You're tankies. You've had leftist revolutions throughout history that you could point to and say, yeah. I'm not going to say Lenin was on the right, bro. Like, I'm not going to say that. He also viewed things with class struggle. He just had a little bit of a pointier stick that he used to go. Exactly. So again, it's one of those things that I don't necessarily. The left-right continuum isn't an appropriate way of framing that, but I will say that most leftists you're dealing with in America, vast majority of them are in the left libertarian pocket, of the quadrant, right? They're the people who will probably agree with libertarians on a lot of things, because they do value freedom and they do value better economics, I'll put it that way, and like neoliberal worldview does. But like, we are typically pacifists. We are typically against violence. We're typically against war. We're typically against these things. And you're right, it's very silly for them to paint us that way. And it's one of those things when you're talking about like this stochastic terrorism thing, it's one side is speaking one language and the other isn't. I talk about this all the time. Mark Lauterbach, he commented here, and he said, "I'm amused that name calling that goes on. Conservatives are fascists, liberals are communists. Can't speak calmly and not only do the name comment. Oh well." And it's like, some conservatives are fascists. Some, well, not liberals are communists, but so that wouldn't make any sense. But some people on the left side of the American political spectrum are communists. One thing that I think gets completely lost is that there's nothing morally wrong about communism. You might have your disagreements with it as a successful economic platform, but no one would say communism is inherently evil. It's just a different way of classifying who owns what. You might even say the means of achieving that are evil, but that in itself isn't. Whereas fascism is inherently evil. It is inherently saying these people are superior to these people, are superior to these people. That is a core tenet of fascism. And so what I really hate is when people say, oh, well, you just shouldn't do names. You shouldn't call people those names because it aggravates it. It adds to the heightened political tension and temperature in this country. And I'm like, no, we have to use the appropriate names for things. If you're calling someone a fascist or a communist and it's meant as an insult, you shouldn't do that. I agree. You should not do that. Just like I just called out Kamala for calling Donald Trump a communist as an insult. She shouldn't do that. She knows better, right? But if you're calling him a fascist and saying, hey, all of these things he's doing is lined up with fascism, that is accurate. That's how you define things. I say the same thing about like sexual assault, rape, all these things. I fucking hate when people use pillowy terminology and vocabulary to refer to sexual violence, because it doesn't do anyone any favors. It just gives people places to cower. And we know this when we talk about like teaching children about sex. You should use the actual scientific terms. You shouldn't call it a pee-pee. You should call it a penis. We all fucking know this. This is proven by tons and tons of research. But it's just, I don't like the whole, hey, we shouldn't call people these names, because sometimes people are fucking fascists. Like, if you would have said that during the fucking 1930s in Germany, you would have been so dead wrong and you would have regretted your fucking words. You should have called them fascists. You should have called them bad people. Like, that you just should define people accurately. I want to pop this up just like as an example of the rhetoric that we're talking about, right? Have you seen Stephen Miller's speech at Charlie Kirk's memorial?
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to pop this up. I need to play this because we'll comment it on it later.
Yeah.
To Athens. Our lineage and our legacy hails back to Athens, to Rome, to Philadelphia, to Monticello. Our ancestors built the cities. They produced the art and architecture. They built the industry. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness. You are jealousy. You are envy. You are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity.
And so, yeah, that's the kind of thing I talk about, Rio, when I say these people are fascists. That's speech,
purely fascist. Purely fascist.
Not everyone who votes for Donald Trump is a fascist. Again, most people don't understand what that word means. And again, I'm not just saying that about the people who vote for Donald Trump. Most Americans just don't know what fascism is. But that is a speech that I feel like everyone should be able to look at who has had any understanding of fascism throughout history and go, fuck, that is insanely fascist rhetoric coming from a very powerful individual in the executive branch of the US government. And that's terrifying. I mean, look at what he says there. Our ancestors built our civilization. First of all, what the fuck do you mean me and Rio, we don't got the same ancestors. Me and TJ, we don't got the same ancestors. I don't got the same ancestors as most people in America. So who the fuck is our ancestors?
And he's not talking about democracy, freedom, egalitarianism. He's not talking about any political ideas. He's talking about ancestors from thousands of years ago.
Yep. And he talks about we need to defend our children and our children's children from it. Clear 14 fucking word dog whistles we're talking here. He makes multiple just straight up paraphrasing of Joseph Goebbels and Adolf Hitler within that speech. Again, it is something that you point to. And even if you're going to say, there's plausible deniability here. First of all, that's what fucking dog whistles are for. Second of all, anyone who doesn't feel like, especially someone in a position of power within the United States government, who doesn't feel the need to make sure that their speech doesn't come across as fascist in any way, shape, or form, might as well be a fucking fascist. Like it's just, if you're going to say that doesn't matter, that it sounds a hell of a lot like a fucking Goebbels speech, I don't know that bothers me. That bothers me as someone who fucking Joseph Goebbels would have had killed. And I don't know why it doesn't bother more people, other than they see it through the lens that has been constructed around them.
It's not just like a Goebbels speech. Like, it literally is a Goebbels speech. Like, that's exactly what he talked about. You could have you could play that same video, and you could AI change it to Joseph Goebbels himself, and it would be like very accurate to history, to exactly what he was teaching. That didn't make sense, but
no, it makes sense. In fact, I can give you multiple specific examples here.
He quoted he quoted like the Aryan supremacists, like he quoted parts of their mantras and stuff. Like,
so and let me just go through here. Oh no, was this the wrong one? Hold on, keep talking, because I have a list.
I have to. Am I allowed to say Schmittler, or do I have to make it sound weird, or can I just say his name?
Oh, you can say his name. We're demonetized right now. No one cares.
Okay. Oh shit. So I want to talk about Adolf Hitler, because this is actually really fascinating. You may have gone and watched all of Hitler's speeches translated to English. It is a surreal experience, because you think that Hitler is just some asshole like Trump, or kind of an asshole like Mussolini. Mussolini was an asshole. He was not an intellectual. You would think that Hitler was just like brazenly saying a bunch of stupid shit and people were cheering. No, man. No, dude. He was eloquent. He was verbose. He was always saying things like, and I don't mean that we should hurt people. And I'm not trying to say that these people are bad and they're worse than us. Like, he would try and qualify his shit and make it sound reasonable all the time. He would say, I really tried to help these people. I don't think children should suffer. This is Adolf Hitler. I don't think, I tried to get him out of the town. I told him 3, 4, 5 times, please get the women and children out. I didn't want to hurt anybody. And the victim mentality, he was talking about the economy. Adolf Hitler himself was talking about progressivism, liberalism. He was talking about popular ideas. He was familiar with economic philosophy and philosophy in general. He was not dumb. I was very much blown away hearing his shit, and it's terrifying. We should be terrified knowing where that goes, because now we look back in history and we say, holy shit, this is what all of that meant. Like, it's almost like a religious experience to listen to Hitler speak, because he sounds exactly like a Christian nationalist Trump supporter, he sounds way better than Stephen Miller, actually, to be honest. That's weird to say. Stephen Miller's just an asshole. Stephen Miller's like a nerdy, like he is not some, I'm surprised that Stephen Miller has so much power. He's not imposing or especially charismatic or interesting. It's really weird. He's more like a nerd that.
Well, have you ever heard of the jock creep theory of fascism?
What is it?
So the jock creep theory of fascism, I forget who originally coined the term, but it's that fascism attracts 2 types of people, jocks and creeps. In every fascist movement, you have the jock, the Mussolini, the Hitler, the Donald Trump, the cool guy that has the power to enact the everything that they want, that wants to be done, but they don't have confidence. Exactly. And then you have the creeps, the fucking weirdos, like your Joseph Goebbels, like your Stephen Millers, who you're pretty sure, like, if you punch Stephen Miller in the face or Joseph Goebbels in the face, they would cower and cry like a wimp fucking dog. Like, it's just, they have that face where you're just like, yeah, that's the type of person this is. Your Tom Homans, your Donald Trumps, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that they would scrap, right? And those 2 forces attract each other, because you need your policy wonks. It's going to tell you how to get the shit done, and you need the people who are getting the shit done. And they have this symbiotic relationship with each other. And Colby said, John, Donald Trump straight up said talking about him should be illegal. Glass houses. Yeah, no, Donald Trump is a thin-skinned little bitch. But, like, I do think, like, I don't get that. He doesn't give that Stephen Miller vibe of total fucking creep, weird loser. He's creepy and weird and a loser for other reasons, right? But I wanted to point out, because you talked about Christian nationalism. We're going to talk about that next. I did want to say, because I found the list that I had saved from earlier. So I want to give, just from that one Stephen Miller speech. Now, again, not all of these are going to be dead ringers. Every single one of them is going to make you go, maybe he didn't know about that quote, and this was accidentally sounding similar. But when you do it this many times in one speech, bro, I don't think you're beating the allegation. So here we go. Stephen Miller said, "You have nothing, you are nothing, you are wickedness, you are jealousy. You are envy, you are hatred. You can build nothing, you can produce nothing, you can create nothing." Hitler in 1922 speech in Munich said, "The Jews have never founded any civilization, though he has destroyed hundreds. He produces nothing, he only corrupts what others have built." Miller today, "We are the ones who build, we are the ones who create, we are the ones who lift up humanity." Hitler in Mein Kampf, "Aryan man alone possesses the culture-creating capacity. He is the founder of all higher humanity. The Jew lives as a parasite among the productive peoples." Miller today, "You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You've made him immortal. You've immortalized Charlie Kirk, and now millions will carry on his legacy." Hitler in a speech on Horst Wessel, 1933, "You can kill us, but you cannot kill our spirit. Horst Wessel lives on as a martyr. His death has made him immortal, and millions will follow his example." Miller today, "We will devote the rest of our lives to finishing the causes of which Charlie gave his last measure of devotion." Hitler in 1934 Nuremberg rally, "We pledge that we shall be faithful to the end, and we will devote our lives to the cause for which our comrades gave their blood." Miller today, "You cannot defeat us, you cannot slow us, you cannot stop us, you cannot deter us." Hitler in his Reichstag speech in 1939, "They may threaten us, they may attack us, they may try to strangle us, but Germany cannot be broken, cannot be defeated, cannot be destroyed." Again, each and every one of those, if you look at them, and you say, yeah, maybe it's a coincidence. You put them all together, and it starts to tell a story. You put their other ideologies together, it starts to tell a story. If someone was not trying to look like a fascist, as I said before, you would never be able to draw these comparisons. Never. You will never. You can look up any fucking speech that a Democrat has given in my lifetime, and they've never fucking sounded like that. You could never do that to any fucking fascist orator throughout history. You cannot draw those kinds of comparisons in a single speech. But this happens regularly. And that's the thing we need to talk about. The other thing we need to talk about, which you brought up, is Christian nationalism, which is very much at the heart of this, and very much at the heart of Charlie Kirk specifically, because that is something Kirk leaned into hard. And if you're listening to what these MAGA conservatives are saying right now, they are treating him like a martyr. They are using this as a call to arms. I want you to talk about it a little bit more, Reo, because you are much closer to the Christian nationalism side of the conservative base than I am.
He's less of when we talk about him being a martyr, I would say yes, he's a martyr, but not in a good way. He's not a martyr in the same way that Martin Luther King is a martyr. He's a martyr the same way that Joseph Smith was a martyr. That's what how Charlie Kirk was a martyr. And I want to talk about Christian apologetics. And this is, gosh, dude, this is a whole, I could write a book on this. I am a former Christian apologist, which means that I defended Christianity. And I tried to tell people that, no, it's plausible that Adam and Eve lived 6,000 years ago. It's plausible. Carbon dating is bad. And like horrible. I used horrible arguments, the same type of shit that Charlie Kirk was doing. And what a lot of people don't realize is that with the growth of Christian nationalism and in a response to the deconstruction of Christianity that's happened for about the past 5 years, really intensely for the past 5 years, in this environment that we are having a flourishing of Christian apologetics, people online trying to defend the Bible and defend the claims of Christianity. And the funny thing is, if you pay attention to politics over the years and how YouTubers are political, they will get roped in eventually. If they want to be conservative apologists defending conservatism, eventually they'll get roped into defending Christianity and the Bible too. And then they'll end up getting roped into defending capitalism as well. And so you end up with, they're all swimming in the same pond. The people who defend capitalism and Christianity and corporatism and conservatism, they all end up kind of defending those same subjects. And Christian apologetics specifically is growing, and it's like as popular as country music. Like if you don't like country music, you don't know how big country music is. Country music makes more money than rock and pop and rap. Like country music is, I don't know, it's just huge. And Christian apologetics is huge. And it's something that nobody ever talks about. Nobody talks about the rise of apologetics. So it might be short-lived, but right now, a lot of people are rising up to defend the Bible. And I don't know how deep you want to get into that. But anyway, Charlie Kirk was a Christian apologist. He would always go around defending the Bible everywhere. And so when he died, it was like a Christian, he was so popular because influencers are so popular. We're at this weird point in history where some influencers are like as powerful as countries. Like they're as powerful as like Netanyahu really thought it was important that Charlie Kirk cancel Tucker Carlson in the upcoming Turning Point conference because Netanyahu doesn't like how Tucker Carlson is putting a new narrative on Israel. And so they were pressuring Charlie Kirk to cancel. Have you heard about that at all?
I did, yes.
And so, but think about how insane it is that you have the leader of an entire fucking state in the world afraid, trying to use any type of pressure and power he can muster to get a fucking YouTuber to change on something. So social media influencers are so powerful. They're like, some social media influencers are they have way more clout than celebrities. It's
easily.
weird.
Well, and Charlie Kirk in particular, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Charlie Kirk in particular wasn't just an influencer. This is something that is lost in so many narratives about this that I always want to mention because it's integral to the plot. He was an organizer. Turning Point USA is one of the most successful, probably the most successful youth voter turnout that conservatives have ever had. And he built that himself from scratch. Respect to him for doing that. I mean, fuck him for doing that, but also mad respect. Like that wasn't easy to do when he fucking did it. It wasn't just him as an influencer. It's him as an organizer. He built a platform, not just he's spoken to the camera like we do, But anyway, continue. I just wanted to add that very important bit of context.
Well, I mean, listen, I hope this isn't too petty to say, but I don't mean to talk shit on a bunch of people, but like Steven Crowder sucks. And he couldn't do what Charlie Kirk did. But Steven Crowder is like so obnoxious and kind of cringy. And but he also is a Christian apologist and an apologist for capitalism and an apologist for corporatism and an apologist for the conservative right and an apologist for Donald Trump. But he did not ascend. Steven Crowder did not ascend to the heights that Charlie Kirk did. Matt Walsh, also cringy. Just didn't have the charisma. He has like a major super creep factor. Matt Walsh does.
He really does.
And he can't ascend to where Charlie Kirk did. Milo Yiannopoulos, he can't ascend that high.
Ben Shapiro is the only one who was ever close to Charlie Kirk. But Ben Shapiro doesn't have the charisma that Charlie Kirk does.
That's what I was going to say, is like, Ben Shapiro is the only conservative voice that's really comparable to Charlie Kirk. I don't even think Candace Owens got as close as,
not even close.
But Ben Shapiro is also like annoying and squeaky, and he's like autistic in the way that he debates, and he's really quick-witted and sharp, and he'll get people off balance, and he'll move around in a debate a lot, so he seems like he's being intellectual.
You don't feel like you could have a beer with Charlie with Ben Shapiro.
With Ben Shapiro,
like you could have a beer with Charlie Kirk. Yes,
that's right. So Charlie Kirk, he became kind of like the Michael Jackson a little bit of like this new young wave of apologetics and debating. But here's the other thing, because the plot gets deeper, bro. And I'm going to talk about something that nobody is talking about. But I have a specific little like unique insight into this because I was an apologist. I was a Christian apologist. There's a scale of Christian apologetics, and when you start out, you only want to fight people and score points and be kind of a provocateur, and you're kind of just obnoxious and silly, and you're not really trying to engage. So it's like cheap tricks. You're misrepresenting people. You're using straw man arguments all the time. So, but then, and you see this with Ben Shapiro, you see this with all these right-wing influencers. They go through kind of like an immature where they just want to score points. From there, they go into let's not just score points. Let's actually debate. We're going to debate people. But really, we're just trying to be right. We're not really trying to inform our audience or really get into the nuance. But then after the debate part is over, then they continue to mature. And then they start to say, well, you know what? Let's not even debate. Let's actually just have a frank discussion. Let's sit down and let's hash things out. And that's when you start to approach authenticity. And I think that Charlie Kirk, towards the end of his life, he had done the cheap parlor tricks. He had done the less mature, like, you're going around just being a provocateur. He had done the debates. He had gone to, it's not Harvard. Where was it? Oxford? Where is it? Cambridge, right?
No, it was Oxford.
Was it Oxford?
I thought it was Oxford. I could be wrong, but I thought it was
I'm like not remembering, but he had that debate, which was awesome. Everybody watched it, and they watched him get roasted, and that was cool. And And it was cool to see that Charlie Kirk was a little bit more mature about the way that he handled some things. But here's the thing. At the end of his life, he started saying, let's talk about Israel for real. He's like, was there a stand down order? You know, and he started to ask a lot of questions about the narrative. He started to express disappointment in how he was being pressured to say certain things. He started to deviate a lot from what Netanyahu was wanting him to do. And he didn't have Netanyahu on his podcast. Netanyahu did a podcast tour, and he avoided going on Charlie Kirk's podcast, which to me says a whole lot. I don't know how you feel about the Israel thing when it comes to Charlie Kirk, but I mean, there's a lot of, I'll just say this, there's a lot of evidence that he was very much like willing to accept a lot of nuance, to the point where he wasn't necessarily pro-Israel. He was kind of floating more towards Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens right before his death.
And it's important to, whenever we talk about being anti-Israel, specifically among conservative influencers, isn't always a virtue. They might be coming to some correct conclusions,
but from a bad place.
It's coming from a very bad place.
Yeah, but no, I'm not talking about that. But that is absolutely true.
And Charlie Kirk, I don't know how much I buy the, oh, well, he became out of favor because of his pushing towards a problematic position on Israel for the Trump administration and the American-Israel alliance. I don't believe that that's what caused this to happen, merely for the fact that, again, we're attributing some very complex moves from very dumb people. Like, unless Bibi had him assassinated himself, I don't think Donald Trump would want to sacrifice Charlie. No. Charlie Kirk is more valuable to him alive than dead. There was many other people. Like, if that's the case, you there's other people you could have pointed to. He could have shot Candace Owens. You know, again, like, I don't think it would have been the similar effect.
I don't think that Trump was involved. I just tend to.
And if Trump wasn't involved, then it wasn't because of the shifting views on Israel. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way.
I don't know. I'm gonna be I really, truly, authentically hate conspiracy theories. I really don't like conspiracy theories. I think they're bad for society. But I think that this is starting to be so weird. I've like obsessed over the Charlie Kirk murder. And all of the evidence as it's coming out and as it's being compiled. I've obsessively looked at it. And it's just really scary. But I do want to say this. I don't think Charlie Kirk was anti-Israel. And I don't think he was moving towards a position where he would be anti-Israel. I don't think Charlie Kirk would ever be like, well, Israel should not be occupying an indigenous people. He never would say that. He would never be anti-Israel. I think that what Charlie Kirk was starting to do is be a little bit anti-Bibi, a little bit anti-Netanyahu. And I'm not even going to say that Charlie Kirk was going as far as to be against the Likud party. He's not even against the Likud party or their policies or platforms. I think specifically Charlie Kirk was only against Bibi, was starting to express critical thoughts and ideas towards Bibi and towards Bibi's personal inner circle. I very much think that this is about Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, if there was an assassination, here's all I have to say. And I'm okay. I'm okay if this is just a conspiracy theory and I'm totally wrong. I am happy to correct myself. I'm happy to be wrong about anything, and I have no pride in that. But Israel specializes in assassinations. I mean, that's what Israel does. Israel is like the assassin country. And Charlie Kirk refused $150 million from Netanyahu. Now, what Netanyahu was going to do was have a bunch of billionaire folks in the States transfer $150 million to Turning Point. It would have doubled Turning Point's entire budget. And Charlie Kirk turned that down because for him to receive the $150 million, he had to sign documents promising that he would never use certain narratives or certain words. And he had to sign this thing confirming that he would stick to the specific narrative. And he said that that was very uncomfortable. And he had to refuse to have Tucker Carlson and a couple other people speak at Turning Point. And I see a motive there. I see a motive. And I'll explain the motive. And this is a conspiracy. I want to point out to people, this is a conspiracy. This is all alleged. And I'm happy and comfortable to be wrong about this. But the motive was this. I think that Bibi specifically, we're not talking about Israel, and we're not even talking about the Likud party. We're specifically only talking about Bibi. I think that Bibi really saw the conservative youth as a base that he could not lose. He's lost the left. He's lost liberals. He's even lost centrists with Gaza. He's lost centrists. I think that Bibi recognizes that he needs the conservative base. They're his last hope to maintain support among the population in the United States. And so I think seeing a powerful influencer like Charlie Kirk start to turn specifically against Bibi, I see a motive. I see a motive. I can see Bibi saying, "Hey, let's set something up that he has to go," and then he hired somebody to put together some sort of story and place patsies. I mean, how weird is it that this guy is like, "I did it, shoot me," and then they catch him and he's like, "Oh, actually, I was my whole job here was to confess so that it would give the shooter time to run away." He literally said that to the cops. Have you heard that?
I didn't hear that. I hadn't heard that part. No.
Yeah, he literally said, "I'm doing this to give the shooter time to escape." It's like, wow, that guy didn't stay silent for very long. That you didn't pay him enough, So, but then off where the shooter had run, there was this guy wearing the same clothes, wandering around in that same area, and he was caught as well. It was like two plants. It was like two patsies. A lot of people think that Tyler Robinson was a fall guy and that he wasn't the shooter. And I don't, I'm not going to take it that far because I haven't seen any evidence, but I think it's possible that this goes to Bibi. What do you think? You think that's too far?
I think it's a bridge too far. And we talked about a lot of the conspiracy theories 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And here's my rule of conspiracy theories. Most of them sound crazy. Some of them are true, regardless of how crazy they sound. The best way to view them before we know any of the evidence is Occam's razor. And Occam's razor here tells me it's far more likely that someone who is well trained with guns had some sort of vendetta against Charlie Kirk for reasons, again, like we don't know. They saw the opportunity and they took it. That is much more simple to me than Bibi was seeing Charlie Kirk start to turn against him, and so he, under the nose of the Trump administration, conducted an assassination of a key political ally of the president of the United States on U.S. soil. That is just, again, I'm not saying it can't be true. Again, conspiracy theories are sometimes true. It's a bridge too far for me to put my eggs in that basket. But I understand why people would kind of think it, because as you said, Israel does assassinate people all the time.
That's what they do. That's what that is.
And what you're saying, kind of describing what Charlie was doing, it's exactly what liberals started to do over the last couple of years of, well, we're not going to turn against Israel. But Bibi, he's the bad guy. There's no systemic thing going on. There's no systems of oppression that have lasted for decades. This is a BB problem. And that's what the Democrats did. And that's what Charlie Kirk was starting to do. So I understand why that conspiracy theory is there. But again, the level of risk in doing it, unless Trump okayed it, which again would be a level of secret keeping, which I don't think the Trump administration has proven capable of doing. So again, it's just, there's a lot of bridges too far here. But before we end here, because we're coming close to the end here, Reo, I did want to kind of circle back to the topic of today of people who have family members, parents, brothers, sisters, in-laws, cousins, close friends, whatever, who are, again, we're not necessarily talking they voted for Trump, because we all know people voted for Trump. It's impossible to live in America without that, but who are deep into way into the cult. They watch Fox News every night. They are huge religious extremists, Christian nationalists. Like, there are people who you're like, hey, these Christian nationalists, they're pretty bad, right? They're like, well, what is Christian nationalism? You get that response a lot, right? What is your advice to anyone out there who is going through that, still loves the person, doesn't want to cut them out of their lives, but how do you do, like, on a personal level? I'm not saying how do you change your mind, how do you affect them? I'm saying on a personal level, how do you affect yourself? How do you deal with it to love someone who is like that?
Damn, bro. Man, I don't have great wisdom here. I've kind of settled on the idea. Obviously I thought that I could talk it through with my dad. And if you look at the comments below that video, there's about 1,700 comments or something of people saying essentially the same thing, like, oh, we're all fighting like this. I think that many families are fighting over the Kirk thing, and everything's coming to a fever pitch. And I would say right now, we should, one way to deal with it is to say, I'm going to take a break from talking to this person for about 2 weeks. Sometimes just time itself, if you just let it breathe for a couple weeks after a giant thing, then you can talk. But right now it's just too high. The temperature is too high. Sometimes if you're prone to fighting, I mean, sometimes there's people that you're prone to fight with, and if you know there's a likelihood you could fight, it's not good to do it right near an event. I don't know. What are you? I mean, do you have Trump people in your life?
I do. Not my father, not someone as close as you do, but I definitely have people that I have to figure this out with, right? Members of my family, just not that immediate. And what I would say is you're entirely right. I liken it often to, they talk about if you're on a plane and it's going down, you don't give your oxygen mask to your kid first. You put the oxygen mask on first, and then you help them with theirs. Because if you can't get the oxygen you need to survive, you're not going to be a help to anyone, including your kid. So if you need to take that step away from whoever this is that is causing this anguish within you, do so. Put the oxygen mask on. It's not, it is something you are doing both for yourself and them and everyone in your life who depends on you. And then second to that, I actually see a lot of similarities between this and addiction. I feel like the correct way to deal with a MAGA family member, someone in your life, again, I'm not talking about your rank and file standard Republican who voted for Trump because they don't like that. I'm talking about the diehards, right? And they're not gonna just get better. If you were to assign a moral failing to an addict, you might be correct, but to treat them that way is not the correct way to help them and yourself. It isn't.
Damn, that's a good point. That's a good point right there.
If you treat them like they are a bad person for what they're doing, again, you can make a very convincing argument that you're right, but who are you helping by doing that? If you don't intend to keep them in your life, yeah, sure, whatever the fuck. But if you do, treating them that way is only going to cause more hurt to you and them. So treat them like they have a problem. Treat them like you would someone with an alcohol addiction, a gambling addiction, or whatever addiction. And be there just be ready to be there when eventually they're ready to accept your help. And until then, just let them know that you're there. And don't take it personally that you're unable to help them, because only they can. At the end of the day, it is a decision that they're going to have to make. And all you can do is provide them resources and love and support along the way.
Yeah, that's good advice. MAGA is a fucking addiction. Yeah, the cult of MAGA is like alcoholism. That's exactly true. It's fear, dude. It's fear.
It is. And hey, that's why people become addicted to a lot of things. They're afraid. They're afraid of whatever. It's why a lot of bad human things happen, is because of fear. And it's why you always see fascists lean into that fear, because they know how fucking powerful it is. Well, anyway, Reo, thank you very much for being here. That is our show today. Audience members, people who are watching this live at 6:30 EST on Tuesday, we also go live on Thursdays, or watching this in a video on YouTube afterwards. Nathan, tell people where they can find you.
Just look up Nathan Reo on TikTok. And I just like to go over Christian deconstruction of capitalism, and that type of stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. And he's short selling himself. He makes great content. Definitely recommend checking him out. Until then, we will be back live at 6:30 EST on Thursday with a jiu-jitsu national champion who has quite a few things to say about politics. Very excited for that one. Until then, see you guys later.